if you've got a Sprinter van, old body style or a new body style, and you've converted it to a camper or anything that's had insulation installed, or you just want to keep water out of your panels, the factory design is for it to, it's going to have water ingress, and then there are drains on the bottom of the doors and drains on the bottoms of the sliding door and the sills and stuff, and you're going to have water. So if you have insulation in there, you don't want water, especially if it's not thinsulate. It's something that's going to absorb the water and cause mold or rust or anything else. So to prevent that, you want to seal them and then install your plugs. Now this last 907 Sprinter has a rubber seal that they added to the trim clip. It's supposed to help with the water ingress, and I'm sure it helps, but it doesn't stop it. And also the rubber ages, and if you've put thousands or tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of work into your van like I have, you just don't want water getting inside the doors. So there are a few things you can do to mitigate that. For this one, I'm going to be using Sikaflex 221. Really, any urethane sealant, you could probably use a silicone or something. This is a little more robust. So I'm just going to be putting a little bit around each of these trim clips, and then we're going to orient them so that they'll line up with the panel, and I'm going to show you that, because once you've sealed them in, like these guys over here, there's really no removing them without compromising that seal. The other thing to consider here is, if you have one of these vans and you pulled these off, you know that the trim clips break. They're $2 a piece, and the trim panels themselves break, and they're $100 to $300 a piece depending on the panel. So you're talking about over $1,000 of trim just for placing the side trim on the van. So once you seal these, you're probably not going to be removing them ever again without damaging the panel itself. Certainly the clips, but probably the panel as well. There's only access to the back of a handful of these, so you can't release them from there. So anyway, we're going to start by putting a dollop of this 221 on each of the holes after we clean it with rubbing alcohol. Now, if you're watching, you may be thinking, man, that looks like shit. And it does. Urethane's really thick. I don't have a high torque gun to shoot it out, and this is also an older tube, so it's even thicker. So I can't put it, normally you'd have a tip on the gun and you could get a fairly smooth bead around it, but it truly doesn't matter. I'm OCD enough that it bothers me regardless, but grand scheme, doesn't matter. It's going to be a lot less unsightly than the rust you're going to get if you leave this uncovered. You can take your trim clip, pop it in. I like to give it a good rotation because you can watch the Sikaflex go around the seal nicely, and you want it perpendicular to the ground. If you're considering the Amazon versions of these clips, I would advise against them. I've used them before. They look the same, but the panels don't clip in the same. I actually ended up with this side panel kind of popping off the van, which obviously that didn't come all the way off, but you don't want that. Also, my van was just painted on the sliding door here, so I don't have a whole lot of cleaning to do with that rubbing alcohol. It was just a quick wipe. But for most vans, a lot of dirt and crap collects behind these trim panels. So when you pull them off, you're going to want to do a really good cleaning, wash, some degrease or whatever you want to do, but get them nice and clean and prepped. Prior to the accident, I had already Raptor lined the rest of the van trim. They were all really faded, like Mercedes panels always get. So I still got to do the front and rear bumpers now after the accident again. But the side trim and stuff turned out great. I love the texture of it. I did a video on spraying Raptor liner on trim because you're thinning it 20% and modifying the gun a little bit and stuff, but it really neat effect, and it's also been sprayed for about 2 years in the Florida heat on plastic with proper prep work. It's really impressive stuff, so check out the other video if you've got faded plastics or you want to do a color change or any of the above. Anyway, I did this door yesterday, so they're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and pop the door panel back on so you can get an idea, and then this piece, of course. If you're pulling these off, bear in mind that you've got a screw on the end, 2 of them on the end of the door, and 1 on each end of the slider. So before you start ripping panels off, be mindful of that. It's easy to break them. They actually slide out. So the panel, these can be pre-installed and then the panel slides into them. But it's important to know that before you go breaking the panels off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these guys in. It's starting to get a little dark out here, but you can see the finished product. Like I said, I think the Raptor gives it a really nice texture. It holds up really well. It's been on the other side of the van here and the grill, and it was the bumper before I replaced the bumper. So this whole side's been done for 2 years. It's got some wax residue on the top from waxing the van, but holds up really well. Anyway, important to get this stuff sealed. And again, remember the orientation of these. You can put a straight edge across the top of them if you need to, but you need them perpendicular to the ground. So look at your panel on the way, otherwise they're not going to snap in. And once this dries, you can't move it without compromising that seal. So it's been overnight. All the urethane is set up. It looks great. I also plugged, there's a hole here and a hole up here that don't have any clips in them. So I went ahead and just filled that up with urethane just to keep the water out of them. So you do have the screws I was talking about. You've got 2 on the back of the driver and passenger door. It's a small Torx screw with a little plastic seal on it. And then you've got 1 on either end of the long panel. So make sure you take those off before you remove these or they will break. So let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. That's it. We'll put the screws in and it's all installed. I really like the texture that the Raptor liner leaves behind, and it holds up really nicely. So hope this video helps getting your panels sealed. I will be doing the front and the rear bumper if you want to check back in with the channel. I'll also be putting some Falcon Wild Peak AT4s on next week, so it'll be a little bigger. Lots of projects left, but it's getting there. Have a good one. I was about to throw away this panel that I had Raptor lined because most of the clips down at the other end here are broken off from an accident. So I've replaced it. It's pretty worthless to me. However, this has been painted with the Raptor liner for about 18 months. Aside from some scuffs and stuff from the accident getting kicked around the garage, it held up really well. Thought this is a great time to do a little bit of a durability test so you can see how well this has adhered to the plastic. So if you've ever painted plastic, you know it's a losing battle trying to keep it on there, and if it peels off or breaks, it just comes off in sheets. This is just a fairly sharp, flat-bladed screwdriver. I'm scuffing the surface, but it's not raising the Raptor liner at all, even with just the sharp edge. It's scuffing it, but it's not taking it off. And I imagine if you wanted to clean this up, if you had scuffs like that, you could wet sand it down to 2000 and then probably buff the Raptor liner a little bit and get it back to looking good. It's really, really impressive stuff. If we really get into it and try to get into the plastic, I'm sure we can. So there, I'm into the plastic. But the question is, once you're into the plastic, if you can get the Raptor liner to come off and flake off or peel off, and you can't. It's bonded so well that it just doesn't come off and flakes like paint does. It's really an incredible bond. So obviously, again, prep work, adhesion promoter, and a good application, but really impressed with this stuff. So I'll be doing other long-term reviews with it. If you want to see any other durability tests with it, I've got this piece. So Have a good one.